Last night you heard the Eagles walked away from the NFL draft with not one but two Georgia Bulldogs. And I know the joke is out there, this Philadelphia Bulldogs now. Look, if you're going to pick two guys from anywhere, why not it be the two-time defending national champion with a loaded defensive roster? We'll get into all that. Plus, what can we expect from day 2 of the NFL draft tonight? Well, Andy McNamara will join us coming up in less than 20 minutes from now. As always, we'd love to hear from you guys out there. 609-403-0973. That is the text board. You also get DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. And, I made the comment earlier, and I'll reiterate it here. You have a situation where the Eagles found a way to walk out of the draft with two of the best possible options they could have gotten. Jalen Carter was the guy that I always wanted. So selfishly, I'm very thrilled today. But let me tell you why you should be thrilled too. Let me take you back in the time machine. Let's look at all the players who have dropped because of off-the-field issues. Now, again, the kind of off-the-field issues we're talking about are not, I repeat, are not domestic violence. They're not anything like that. But I remember when Laramie Tunsil dropped because he was caught on tape, basically, for lack of a better term, to quote Stephen A. Smith, using the weed on tape. And he dropped. Look what he turned out to be. Dan Marino, people had a lot of negative things to say about him back in the 80s. He dropped. Well, he's a Hall of Famer. Guys dropping. Aaron Rodgers. Oh, he doesn't have a personality. People like, he doesn't get along with his teammates. Hall of Famer. Laramie Tunsil's a pretty darn good player. So Jalen Carter is in very good company right now. Now, listen, I will acknowledge right here that I am well aware of the accusations against him and the legal trouble that he was in. But let me be very clear about something. Number one, if your big off-the-field indiscretion is that you're involved in drag racing, that's not the end of the world. What is the negative is that he was involved in a drag race whose end result resulted in two people dying. Not because of Jalen Carter driving, but because the people in the other car he was racing got into a car crash and died. That is not the same tier to me as an abusive individual, a predatory individual. We allow people of all types of bizarre off-the-field activities play in the NFL. So I'm not going to let Jalen Carter's issues off the field paint with a shade of colored glasses how I view him, especially considering what Ian Fitzsimmons said last night here on 97.3 ESPN's coverage of the NFL draft.
I had one AFC general manager tell me going back to last year, and he doubled down on it again this year. When he plays within that system and doesn't improvise, he's as good as he has ever seen up front, ever evaluated. Last year, he would have been arguably the number one overall pick. Watching them last year, had him 4 times, including the national championship game. The alpha on that defense wasn't Walker, wasn't Davis, wasn't Carter. It was Nakobe Dean, who fell to the 3rd round last year because of a pec injury. So you're talking about a dude in a room on both sides of the ball that have players that will hold the man next to them accountable, from Jason Kelsey, Jalen Hurts, and now on that side, former teammates like Jordan Davis and that alpha that is Nakobe Dean.
Think about that for a minute. The alpha in the locker room, he said, at Georgia was Nakobe Dean. Well, who was not around for a year while Jalen Carter was getting in trouble with issues off the field? It was Nakobe Dean. Who is the guy that Jalen Carter says is like his big brother / mentor? It's Jordan Davis, who was not at Georgia last year. Am I the only one that sees a correlation between the two players who are on the Eagles now and who were in Georgia with Jalen Carter, the two players that he loves and respects the most and looks up to? This is an amazing coup by the Eagles. I couldn't believe I was watching an NFL draft last night where you kept seeing Carter drop from pick to pick to pick. I kept looking around and I'm thinking, wow, I can't believe the Seahawks chose Witherspoon here instead of Carter. Now I get why. They view Witherspoon as a Richard Sherman-esque type cornerback in Seattle, so I get it. But then you saw the Cardinals trade up and pick Paris Johnson, which a lot of people were suspecting that the Cardinals were going to pick Johnson all along. Then you flip the script and you see that a team like the Raiders, they go pass rusher, not Carter. And maybe for the Raiders, they feel like they've been burned by great college players with off the field issues before. For example, Henry Ruggs. Then you got Bijan Robinson going to the Falcons. And as soon as Robinson got drafted by the Falcons, all I could think of was if the Eagles don't get Jalen Carter, it would be a crime, right? It's absolutely amazing to me that we are in this position to get Jalen Carter, arguably the best talent in this draft, arguably the best player on not one but two national championship defenses. And then you see his teammate Nolan Smith, who a lot of people like. Look, I'll admit it, I'm not as high on Nolan Smith as some other people are because I was worried, man, 10 felt too rich for my blood. It felt like, to me, drafting Nolan Smith at 10 was the equivalent of getting something just because there's a name brand on it. Doesn't mean it's better just because it's a name brand. That's what it felt like to me. But when the Eagles got Nolan Smith at 30th overall, I thought it was incredible value. I thought it was the right pick in the right place at the right time for a couple of reasons. One, I like Brian Branch at Alabama, but the fact that he is not a pure safety, that he's more of a half nickel corner, half safety, I think is reason enough for him not to be a first-round pick. For as talented as he is, the fact that he does not have a true defined position means he needs to go to a team that's going to use him as a defensive weapon and not just as a specific position. You know, I was telling people last night who were asking me, I had people tweeting and texting me last night, why did the Lions take Jahmyr Gibbs? I kept telling people, the Lions took Gibbs because he's an offensive weapon. Gibbs is not just a running back. Gibbs is the kind of player who can play slot receiver. He can kick return. He can punt return. He can do anything and everything in an offense. He basically is a healthier version and more dangerous potential version of Percy Harvin. If you would have taken Percy Harvin and Reggie Bush out of college and made them into one player, it's probably going to look like Jahmyr Gibbs. So that's why the Lions took him. But you look at the end of the draft and you realize that everything went the Eagles' way. And as Dan Graziano, NFL Insider, said this morning on Get Up, The Eagles are one of the best in the NFL at doing this.
Having a feel for how the draft is likely to go is such a rare thing, right? And the Eagles do it very well. They could have made an aggressive trade up to a higher pick than 9 to make sure they got Jalen Carter. They didn't have to. They were able to stay patient, and he got close enough that they could make a small move and get up. And then, Nolan Smith fell in their laps. Like that was, I'm sure they were getting calls from teams that wanted to trade up from the second round and get a fifth-year option on somebody, but they felt like given what teams were offering, it wasn't worth it as much as it was to have Nolan Smith. So it was outstanding work by a team that does this well pretty much every single year.
This is who the Eagles are. They, in the Howie Roseman administration part 2 or part 1, depending on who you ask, who was actually in charge of things a decade ago. But the Eagles have done an incredible job at setting themselves up for success. Now, what do they do tonight? I think the only negative against the Eagles right now is you got 2 picks sitting there for you later in day 2, later in the second round, and then early in the third round. Do you take those 2 picks and trade back up? Listen, Joey Porter, I think, makes sense for this team. I'm not 100% certain if he is gettable for the Eagles, but he definitely has to be in consideration. Brian Branch, as I said, I think he's more of a defensive weapon than he is a pure safety. Just because from watching Alabama, okay? Seeing the way they used him at Alabama. I think one interesting guy to keep an eye on is where does Will Levis go today? I think it's going to say, and Hendon Hooker is going to say a lot about where the second round goes, because a lot of people who cover the draft, to cover the NFL, looked at Levis and Hooker and said those guys should have been first or could have been first round picks. Now they're in the second round. How many teams attempt to trade up to get those guys? And then 2 other players to keep an eye on who the Eagles will not be in play to necessarily get, but who teams are going to be clamoring for. That being Michael Mayer of Notre Dame, the tight end, and BJ Ojulari of LSU, the edge rusher. I think both of those guys have a lot of interest. So those are 4 names to keep an eye on tonight before the Eagles ever have a chance to draft. And when the Eagles get a chance to draft, I'm going to throw out a couple names. We'll dig deeper into this with Andy McNamara coming up in about 5 minutes from now here on Game Night on Night 3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Friday night. Don't be surprised if the Eagles go offensive line. Cody Mauch of North Dakota State, Osiris Torrance of Florida are 2 guys I could totally see the Eagles going out and getting and turning them into valuable parts of this offensive line for years to come. If you're going to go offense, I personally would not mind seeing Sam Laporta, the tight end from Iowa, go for the Eagles. I think he would be a very nice pickup for the Birds if you want to get some tight end depth. And then one more player for the Eagles. I mean, if you want to go real crazy, if anyone's ever seen the Michael Keaton Batman movie where he says, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts." How about Keely Ringo, another Georgia player, a cornerback who I think down the road can make the transition like Charles Woodson and Rod Woodson did years ago, and Malcolm Jenkins, to eventually be a safety. I could totally see Ringo starting his career the first few years as a starting corner in the NFL, and then eventually making the transition to safety like Jenkins and Woodson did. And I think that it would be interesting to see, do the Eagles actually take another Georgia player? Just some stuff to think about. All right, we'll get to more of your texts a little bit later in the hour. Of course, the text board is open, 609-403-0973. Paul in Ocean City, George in Summers Point, Jeff in Ocean City. I see your guys' messages. I'll get to all you guys and more coming up. But next, friend of the show, Andy McNamara. We'll get his thoughts on last night's draft and tonight's draft here on 97.3 ESPN. Your home for the NFL draft. Eagles football, Sixers basketball, 97.3 ESPN.
This week on Sunday Night Baseball, we head to Houston, Texas for a World Series rematch. The defending champion Astros welcome the Philadelphia Phillies.
A line drive home run for Kyle Schwarber, his third home run of the World Series.
The Phillies at the Astros on Sunday Night Baseball. Coverage begins at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
This is the play-by-play home of Sunday Night Baseball, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM.
Time to tee it up at the 40th Annual Ranch Hope Wranglers Golf Tournament, Friday, June 2nd at Centerton Golf Club, presented by Woodruff Energy. Proceeds will benefit Ranch Hope's youth activities. Ranch Hope is entering its 59th year, serving the youth and families of New Jersey. The tournament is made possible by Comtech Systems, PSEG Nuclear, Mannington Flooring, Atlantic City Electric, First National Bank of Elmer, SJ Water Conditioning, Heritage Dairy Stores, RCL Solar, Foster Carney Foundation, and Pennsville Bank. Let's tee it up for Ranch Hope. Sponsor and player registrations at ranchhope.org.
This world has its limits, but in the all-new, all-electric Nissan Ariya, you've got a world of possibilities. You can leave it all behind in serene interiors, or you can go after it with available e-Force all-wheel drive. Go your way in the all-new, all-electric Ariya. Nissan Ariya with e-Force not yet available for purchase. Expected availability early 2023, subject to change. e-Force all-wheel drive is an optional feature. e-Force cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Right now, spring is at the Home Depot, and it's time to get growing. Whether you're planting vegetables or herbs, or just sprucing up your indoor space with lush 6-inch Vigoro Tropicals, we have what you need to get your season started. Visit your local Home Depot garden center today and shop our easy-to-grow, bigger, bolder tropicals, like peace lilies, dracaena, or ficus plants. Do your spring at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Product varies by store.
Let's be real. Mopping is a hassle. You have to fill the bucket, pushing a wet, heavy mop around, then cleaning the mop when you're done so it doesn't grow bacteria. A hassle on top of a hassle. Try Swiffer WetJet. With Swiffer WetJet, you start with a fresh pad and cleaning solution every time. And when you're done, you just toss the pad. Swiffer WetJet, the faster, easier, cleaner way to clean your floors.
Homeowners trust Jenkins Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Business owners trust Jenkins, too, for light commercial services. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, or the plumbing guy. Call Jenkins. One call does it all. For new heating and air installation, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, oil service, plumbing, and drain cleaning services. Call now and learn about rebates through the HVAC Energy Efficiency Program, brought to you by South Jersey Gas. Call 609-641-6262 or visit jenkinsandsons.com.
You're listening to Game Night on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
I said Howie Roseman should get a damn bust in Canton after that draft last night, bro. I've been watching this for 2 damn years now. I've been looking at great free agency move. When he got A.J. Brown, me and Dan was sitting in the studio. I said, Dan, this is another one. And then he went and signed Hassan Reddick. He got Hassan Reddick the season before that. They went and got Robert Quinn during the season, even though that didn't materialize and being the pick that I thought it would be from a pass rush standpoint. They still sacked the quarterback 70 times, okay? And now last night, people forget that they got Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean last year. I'm glad we ran that graphic last night during the draft, because now you are retooling a defensive line where they were already dominant. People forget Javon Hargrave left and went to San Francisco and got, I think, an $80 to $90 million bag. I think you replace a guy that has the potential to be as good, if not better, in Jalen Carter.
That's the assessment from former NFL player and former Dallas Cowboy Marcus Spears this morning on Get Up on ESPN television. You heard him say it. Howie Roseman did it again. To get more into the draft and why we're only 3 quarterbacks picked in the first round. I have my theories. We'll ask the Andy McNamara, also known as the Browns fan, the host of the Sick Podcast. Andy, you are the one who has seen more. Oh, I love the shirt. He's got, for those who can't see you, he's wearing the draft day shirt from the movie. I love that.
And souvenir coaster with football kicking table game on the back that I got at the premiere of the movie 9 years ago yesterday, Josh. That's how committed I am. Vontae Mack, no matter what. Let's go.
Vontae Mack, no matter what, and Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace.
R.I.P.
Vontae Mack. So you are a Cleveland Browns fan as the foremost expert in good and bad draft moves when it comes to quarterbacks. Why were only 3 quarterbacks picked in the first round?
I think it was a case of the draft hype and misinformation machine running at a level, Josh, that it goes every year, but I don't know if it's run this hot. CJ Stroud, before last night going second overall, was smeared for over a week nationally. The guy's an idiot. He can't do an S2. The guy's the absolute smear job. While Will Levis was elevated to, Josh, there was real talk that number 2 overall could be Will Levis from Kentucky. Real talk. And it was just whatever agenda, whoever was putting that info out there wanted to get out. It was taken, it was bought, but then common sense from the decision makers prevailed, and you had CJ Stroud go 2. I just felt bad for Will Levis, man. I just think when you look at Will Levis and Hendon and Hooker, it was, all right, compared to the talent available, compared to the edge rushers, the linemen, the wide receivers, where were teams going to take that quarterback if they were not going to trade back into the first round? And you just ran out of dancing partners when it came to poor Will Levis, who sat there looking like a chump, unfortunately.
It's very interesting because, you mentioned the fact that there's always draft rumors, right?
Yeah.
There's always hype about guys. I mean, how many? I mean, how for the Browns, people assume Sam Darnold was going to the Browns for 2 months, because the Haslams went to his pro day, was hanging out with his parents, right?
Yeah.
So draft is a very odd thing. I don't think it was any surprise to anyone that Young went 1, Stroud went 2.
Right.
I think for some people, though, they didn't understand why Richardson went 4. And as I explained on Twitter last night, I was trying to explain this week. Shane Steichen coached Jalen Hurts. You have, what's his name? Gardner Minshew was Hurts' backup, right? Jim Irsay said, we want our own Jalen Hurts. Well, it sounds like to me that you're trying to create your own Jalen Hurts by getting his former offensive coordinator and his former backup quarterback and drafting a guy who, let's be realistic, though, Richardson has way less playing experience than Jalen Hurts does, but physically gifted out the wazoo. So, I wasn't necessarily personally surprised those 3 quarterbacks went where they did. But, Andy, let me ask you, do you think there will be a team or two that regrets not drafting Levis or Hooker when they could have?
No, not in the first round. Not for QB needy teams from who needed a quarterback and who took one and who didn't. I think with the talent available, it was just too much. Like, really, if you go through the first round, so okay, we get past Indy. That was the big spot. That was supposed to be Will Levis written all down. And let's talk more in a minute about Anthony Richardson for sure. But then you get, okay, Seattle, well, they're not taking a quarterback. Arizona's not taking a quarterback. Las Vegas, maybe, but at 7, do you want a backup or do you want Tyree Wilson, who can start and be a stud for you right away? Well, you take the pass rusher, right? Then you go to Eagles aren't taking, Atlanta's not taking one. Atlanta, maybe, Desmond Ridder, but nope, they stick and they go with Bijan Robinson. Heck of a pick. Titans, yes, but you get the offensive tackle. I think the landing spot for Will Levis could very be at 41 to the Titans. That makes sense. And you keep going down the list, Josh, and really you run out of suitors. And it's like, okay, Washington was kind of the last spot, and they went with Emmanuel Forbes. Like Tampa Bay, okay, you went with Kancey. I'm not arguing with that. Like Nothing really jumps out as like, oh man, you should have taken Will Levis or Hooker.
What was the bigger reach? Because you mentioned Emmanuel Forbes. Was it Forbes to Washington? Was it Gibbs to the Lions? Was it McDonald to the Jets? Or one that I have not mentioned. Like, for you, was there one of these picks that just screamed to you, I can't believe this team picked this guy here instead of trading down?
McDonald to the Jets, I think, because I feel you probably could have got Will McDonald or a different or better edge guy if you would have traded down or waited. Like Will McDonald, there's some people thinking he would have gone second round. So that was probably the biggest reach to me. The Emmanuel Forbes ones, yeah, like it was okay at 16. All right. Like I personally like Christian Gonzalez better, who the Patriots took, but maybe the Commanders feel, okay, that's our guy. That's fine. Now, one reach was Anton Harrison of the Jaguars, who I believe was ranked generally around 55th as far as talent wise, but the Jags had that need because their left tackle got busted for PEDs. So you need to protect Trevor Lawrence. You're in win now mode, so you have to reach. That was a reach, but I understand the reach. The McDonald one was confusing to me with the Jets.
Yeah, I was saying earlier on the Sports Bash to Mike Gill, Andy, that I thought the Jets should have just traded down. I get that you missed out on all the offensive linemen that you wanted. Joe Douglas's buddy, Andy Weidel, who he worked with us for years in Baltimore, in Philadelphia. Well, Weidel is now with Pittsburgh. Weidel got in the GM's ear and said, trade up, get the guy away from because it felt like them taking McDonald was them being caught with their pants down for the Jets. In that case, just trade down. You're telling me somebody, like, for example, the Giants traded one pick up to get Deontay Banks. You're telling me the Giants couldn't have traded up to 15 to get Christian Gonzalez? Like, I feel like Joe Douglas made a complete, just drop the ball there. And listen, I give the teams ahead of the Jets a lot of credit. The Steelers were trading up ahead of them. I know you don't like the Steelers, but I give them credit anyway.
I do. I give them credit.
I give Chicago credit for drafting right. I give the Titans credit for drafting Skronsky. All those teams said, look, we're not going to go crazy here. We know we need offensive line help. The Titans know that they lost Taylor Lewan. The Bears know it was basically a bunch of losers blocking for Justin Fields last year. And the Steelers realized that their offensive line is getting old. So they had to draft somebody. So I give them credit. I look at the Jets and I say, you guys messed up. It's not that I hate Will McDonald. No. I just think it was like, did you have to draft him there?
No, I'm completely with you. We're other defenders. And like you said, why not just trade down? Was he just in the next pecking order? You're like, okay, like that's not for a 15 pick. That's not a wow pick. And yeah, you're right. Nothing against Will McDonald the fourth or any of the other three McDonalds. Nothing against him. But it's like, why that? I would love to hear the explanation of why. And they'll come out and say, oh, he was the top of our. No, he wasn't. Stop it. Okay. He wasn't. There was other guys you could have gotten. You had no wide receivers were off the board yet either. Like you're telling me Aaron Rodgers couldn't use another weapon. You can't have too many of those. Like it was a strange pick, but that would probably be the one that didn't make any sense. The most clear. And then a couple other head scratches, but not to the same degree.
Andy McNamara joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at Andy MC81. Check out the Sick podcast. Andy, let's get to the Eagles. Eagles, to me, were one of the biggest. To me, they're one of the three biggest winners of day one because they found a way to allow Jalen Carter to come to them. And I don't know what's more surprising, Carter falling to the Eagles at 9 or Nolan Smith falling to the Eagles at 30, because it felt like you're looking at the teams ahead of the Eagles and you're like, well, you could take a Nolan Smith and you could take a Nolan Smith and you could have taken Nolan Smith. And he was there for them. And I said all week, I don't like Nolan Smith at 10. That's too rich for my blood. That's like buying something just because it has a name brand on it, not buying the best product possible.
Yeah.
But getting him at 30 was amazing to me. How do you feel about the Eagles and their two picks?
Eagles and Houston Texans won that first round to me. Period. I think that consensus to me, boom. Texans traded up, got their guys. You got 2 and 3. You got your stud franchise quarterback. You got your stud franchise defender. Love it. But the Eagles, Josh, I'm trying to remember when the last time a team that made the Super Bowl was able to get such talent, such asset acquisition in the very next draft, like the Eagles did. Like, remember Hargrave, we're like, oh no. And we heard it off the top. What are you going to do? Well, now you have Jalen Carter. Okay, he's got some personality or quirks or whatever it might be. However, now you're able to pair him with seasoned veterans in a winning, stable culture. You're telling me Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, the whole people there aren't going to be able to help and guide this young man if he's willing? Looked willing to me. And then Nolan Smith, we were talking about it, right? Maybe a bit of a tween or whatever, but the athleticism is there. And that's the bonus pick. That's the pick if you think, okay, you know what? In our system, we love this guy, and at the right price, we can get him. You get 2 instant playmakers on a team that went to the Super Bowl on defense. Outstanding. Like it's ridiculous. Hall of Fame, yeah, for Howie Roseman. Like, come on.
Here's the thing, I do have only one question when it comes to the Eagles, because it's like you hit 2 home runs in the first round. How on earth do you capitalize on that? Like, I mean, for I said before you came on, like, do you just say, like, remember the movie Batman with Michael Keaton when he says, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts, right?
Nuts.
Do you just go out and take Keely Ringo and just get it done with and have the whole Georgia football team?
Why not? Why not? Look, you've won the draft. I don't care what the Eagles do anymore. Like, they could go CFL draft, Canadian football. They can draft a dead guy. That's happened twice, by the way. Okay? Canadian football. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Truth. You could draft a dead man, and you'd still have one of the best drafts of any team in the NFL. You're done. I don't care who they draft anywhere else. Doesn't matter. You don't have any holes. Now it's about depth. Now it's about best player available. You want to add, there's still a lot of good wide receivers. And I think you can get some true value in those 3rd, 4th, 5th rounds at receiver. You want to add another speedy guy. Maybe he's not polished, can't run a route, but has the go for it. You want to add some more secondary? Okay. You have that flexibility truly now to be able to do whatever you want and get those pieces. Take a project, take a shot. You think a guy high ceiling, but he might bust out. Okay, bust out. So what? You got Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith in the first round. You won.
By the way, I think Ringo, let me tell you what I think of this. I think Ringo has a chance to be the next, like, Malcolm Jenkins, Charles Woodson prototype, where he plays at corner for a few years. Then you realize, his speed's starting to maybe aggress a little bit, and you kick him to safety.
Sure. Yeah. Like, there's a few, it's not necessarily the deepest safety class, but there's some few names. Like, I'm liking Jamie Robinson, 3rd round. I think there's, and when you get to this point, you get to day 2 and especially day 3, these are not perfect prospects by any means. Those quote perfect prospects are gone. That was yesterday. So now you're getting guys with traits that you think, okay, are the problems enough that I think in this system I can solve? We can fix, we can move, we can tweak, whatever. All right. That's the situation we're looking at. And so when you look at for the Eagles, yeah, it's like, again, you want to take a chance on Ringo? Do it. Go for it. Why not?
By the way, you asked, when was the last time a team went to the Super Bowl and had a great talent acquisition the next season?
No.
I'm going to take you back to the 2004 Patriots. They won the Super Bowl after the 2003 season, the 2004 draft. They had 2 first-round picks. There are 2 first-round picks. Vince Wilfork and Ben Watson.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Like, I'm not saying Ben Watson's a Hall of Famer, but he had a really nice NFL career.
He played for the Browns for a bit too. He was a good player.
And Wilfork's probably a borderline Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was a playmaker, but he was consistent. I think that's fair. Borderline Hall of Famer. That's a heck of a draft. But look, you look at this, and who knows what happens, right? But on paper, you got 2 talents. We could be talking about some 2 perennial Pro Bowlers for a team that got to the Super Bowl. That's what I can't get over. You got there. You're not just, and the situation is the next year you come back, you have a low pick, whatever. Okay, can you keep pace with the other teams in your division? Well, yeah, Eagles did that. They didn't just keep pace. They set the pace. They're the rally car up front, right?
And I got a couple of questions I want to get to you for tonight's NFL draft, which folks can hear coming up tonight, starting at 7 p.m. is coverage on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget, you listen to the draft also on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. So, which of these two teams is more likely to get a quarterback on day 2? The Lions or the Rams?
I'll say this. What I think should happen is that the Lions should take a quarterback. Okay. Is that going to happen? I don't know. However, if let's say the Lions go and they take Hooker. Okay. At this point, who the heck knows who's valuing who, right? Levis was supposed to be a 4th overall pick. So I think you look at the Lions because, okay, Jared Goff is very good to a point, but come on, right? You got to be able to start back channeling that. But I think the real value, if they can, and maybe they might move up, who knows? But if you can get Will Levis to the Rams, is that not the perfect guy to learn off of Matthew Stafford? Now, he's more mobile, of course, most people are, than Matthew Stafford, but big burly dude who can chuck it in that offense with a quarterback-friendly coach like Sean McVay. The Rams, it's a perfect spot, and really, no matter whether he goes to him or Hooker, go to the Titans, the Lions, the Rams, whatever, there's no pressure to play these guys immediately now. You're a 2nd-round pick, just like with Jalen Hurts with the Eagles, right? There wasn't that immediacy. There was, you want to see the new toy, right? But it wasn't, if you're the 1st overall, Bryce Young's playing, sorry, CJ Stroud's playing, yeah. That's happening. But if you're a 2nd-round pick, you can pump the brakes a little bit on there. So personally, I think spot-wise for Will Levis, the Rams would be sensational for him. No pressure. The guy can chill and regroup.
Cardinals have the 2nd pick in the draft, 2nd round tonight. Michael Mayer or Joey Porter Jr. The Cardinals call Andy McNamara on the phone and say, Andy, we're having trouble deciding between these two. What should we do?
Boy, well, that's if the Steelers don't take Joey Porter Jr., if they even keep the pick at 32.
See, I think they're going to trade it.
Apparently they've been getting a bunch of calls. If you're the Steelers, like if the price is right, probably like
highest bidder, man. Whoever comes in with the highest bid.
Go get it and move down. You got your old lineman. You got baby hands Pickett. You're good. I always got to take a shot. I'm sorry. If I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, okay, if I'm the Cardinals, you got Kyler Murray. You're kind of in disarray. Here's the problem. I think Joey Porter Jr. can be a faster contributor because, Josh, we see with Mike, I like Michael Mayer. I like him. But we know with tight ends, traditionally, almost to a man, you don't get day one production, typically, right? It's a more complicated position. Now, you can go and you can just make the guy a receiver. Atlanta did that a little bit with Kyle Pitts, but it's a tougher position to break into and go now. I feel the Cardinals need to really be that. We're running out of time sort with Kyler. You know what I mean? So I would probably go with the defender. It's not as sexy. Mayer might be the better contributor down the road, but with Kyler Murray and how that team has underperformed, do you have that type of time? So I'd probably go with the corner.
One more before I let you go. NFL team wants to take a pass rusher. Do you like Keon White of Georgia Tech or BJ Ojolari of LSU?
See, this is where it gets close. So I'll tell you what. I wrote this name down. Okay? I wrote this name down, and this would be a 3rd-round pick. This is who I would take. Isaiah Foskey of Notre Dame. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I like Isaiah Foskey. I wrote down for those who are watching on the stream, no matter what, did my Vontae Mack bit. Okay. I'm putting it in my pocket. I think Isaiah Foskey could be one of the absolute steals of this draft. Maybe when it's all said and done, depending where he's drafted. I think Isaiah Foskey, with the amount of sacks he's gotten, I believe he blocked 4 punts, and he hasn't even reached his full potential. He hasn't even gotten to his best football in college yet, but he's got all of the tools. This is a beast, 6'5", 230 something. He's an absolute monster. To me, maybe not 2nd round, but 3rd round, I'm looking at best value. Foskey is the guy for me, Isaiah Foskey. So I didn't pick, not your cut, but I wanted to get that in because I'm really high on. The more I'm looking, the more I'm watching, the more I'm learning about Isaiah Foskey. I'm just falling in love with this guy. You get that dude in the 3rd round, that could be one of those guys that you look back in a couple years, Josh, you're like, how the heck did he fall?
It's certainly possible. Look, I know there's some people who are very high on him. It does. When you said the name, it didn't surprise me necessarily. It's just interesting to see. By the way, when the Browns finally pick in this century, are they actually get somebody good, or are they just going to keep tripping over themselves?
Oh my God! Well, I'm hoping it's Foskey. That's why I wrote it down, Josh. I'm hoping give me Foskey, Isaiah Foskey, no matter what. I'm hoping this is what the Browns need. The Browns, unless they get squirrely and they go Detroit. Well, we talk about an unnecessary pick. Jahmyr Gibbs was the other one for the Lions. You got Montgomery and Swift there. What the bleep? Why? But you look for what the Browns could do. You need defense. You need a desperately edge rusher. Problem is, a lot of great edge rushers have gone and probably still will go. Is there a Foskey type that you like? Again, with Jim Schwartz, I get a guy who needs some polishing. Put him with Jim Schwartz. Rotation to start. Third down. Yes, please. You need pass rush. You need defensive line. You need a safety. I like that Jamie Robinson I mentioned to you as well. Maybe a linebacker if one's floating around. The Browns need to go defense. And here's what I'm scared of. You talk about tripping over yourself. This analytics-based Browns team, and it's a difference. The Eagles are analytics, but they can also use common sense. As far as like, hey, this is Jalen Carter's a really good football player, but whatever. The Browns take light, fast linebackers and defensive linemen who get pushed around. They give up a lot against the run, and it's a mess. I hope they learn from that and they take some big dudes who are nasty and want to get after the quarterback. So here's hoping.
Yeah, good luck with that. Andy McNamara at AndyMC81, the host of the Sick Podcast. And of course, he joins us throughout football season each week, but he joined us in the off season because it is draft day, literally and figuratively.
That's right, brother. Let's do it. I hope the Eagles have a great rest of the draft, and give some love to my Browns, guys. Come on, we need some luck. Come on.
You need Kevin Costner. That's what you need.
I definitely do. I need Sonny Weaver Jr. That's what I need. I made pancakes too. Anyone who watched them, I made pancakes for me and the kids this morning. I ate my pancakes and I'm ready. Let's go.
By the way, really quick, I don't have a lot of time, but before I let you go, I said this earlier. They need to make a draft day 2. And the theme of the movie is about this whole fiasco with the Eagles and the Cardinals, and the Eagles getting picks because the Cardinals contacted Gannon illegally. They tampered with him, basically. Like, that needs to be the theme of the next draft day. That, well, Sonny Weaver got the coach, but he lost the draft pick.
Right. That'd be perfect. Hey, you know what? I keep forgetting. Every year I watch it, I just want to get a David Putney jersey. One day I'm going to a Browns David Putney jersey just because I feel like it.
By the way, you said that movie was about 9 years ago, right?
Yeah, it came out 2014. Yeah.
Okay, so the new movie would be Kevin Costner is still the GM of the Browns.
Oh my God.
But he has to choose between going to his son's football practice or going to work or something. Because by then his son would be like 13 years old.
Yeah.
My dad's never around. He always spends time at the football stadium.
That's right. Yeah, it's that side real life angle that you really don't need in the movie, but man, it just pulls. And then the kid ends up finding something good about a player that he saw at practice and tells his dad, and they draft the next.
Right. Yes.
Superstar.
We wrote the whole movie.
We wrote the movie. You're welcome, Costner. You're welcome.
Coming out in 2025.
Number 2. Let's go.
Andy, enjoy the rest of the weekend, my friend.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later.
We'll get to your guys' thoughts and comments on the text board next. Also, some interesting messages on the DMs. I see LT chimed in, Steven Ventnor, all you guys coming up next with me, Josh Hennig, on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN.
It's Sixers Celtics Game 1 Monday night on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
The Sixers steal the ball. Here's Bell with a jam. The Sixers stuff it. Are you kidding me?
It's Sixers playoff basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 7:30. Listen to every Sixers playoff game here on 97.3 ESPN.
The all-new Nissan Ariya is a fully loaded EV. It's brimming with style and power.
Up to 389 horses of it.
Innovation and intelligence.
E-Force all-wheel drive.
It'll pin you to your seat.
Your very plush seat.
The all-new, all-electric Nissan Ariya. Nissan Ariya with E-Force. 2023. E-Force cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. E-Force is 389 horsepower, available in Platinum Plus. Nissan calculation using 1-foot rollout testing with long-range battery and E-Force only in Port mode with E-Step off. These results are for comparison only and should not be attempted on public roads. Drive responsibly. See nissanusa.com for details.
At Taco Bell, we like to keep mornings simple because before 11 a.m., you're not down for whatever.
No.
You're not interested in trying new things.
No.
You want a breakfast that's toned down and delicious, like the Breakfast Crunch Wrap with fluffy eggs, sausage, melty cheese, and a crispy hash brown and a grilled tortilla.
I want to eat that.
See? You may not be a morning person, but it's morning, and you're a person. Taco Bell breakfast, served until 11 a.m. At participating Taco Bell stores during breakfast hours only while supplies last.
The waves were mighty and fierce as could be when my lady and I got lost at sea. We tossed and turned and we nearly drowned when my brave little boat went down.
Whoa, 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 no, none of that's true. You haven't had a date in a year or two. The sea was calm and the sky was clear and you crashed right into the pier.
Yeah, fine.
Accidents don't just happen in sea shanties, so Progressive Boat Insurance has you covered. Take as little as 4 minutes to see what you can save at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Covered subject to policy terms and not available for all boats or in all situations.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter code TRUST at checkout. That's harrys.com, code TRUST. Enjoy.
Did you know that over 40 years ago, John Jenkins Sr. invented the heated seat that football players sit on? Yes, the Jenkins family created a way for football players to weather the extreme cold on frigid game days. Find out why homeowners and business owners count on Jenkins for the quality, service, and reliability you get from a 3-generation family-run company for plumbing, drain cleaning, and leak repairs. For gas furnace, boiler, or hot water heater replacements, call Jenkins at 609-641-6440 and ask about zero-interest financing. Online at jenkinsonSons.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
I always love it when you guys chime in here on the Power Hour known as Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Get to the DMs before we get to the text board. Keep them coming in, 609-403-0973. Over on DMs, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. LT chimed in on the DMs with a very long message. I'm just going to read the full message here. LT says, as a guy who grew up in the South, I think that Howie Roseman guys deal with Jalen Carter. The media is talking about Carter like he actually personally killed someone. I grew up going to a lot of races in all walks of life when you're in the South. When you're 20 years old, it has nothing to do with someone's future. It's just a part of life down here. It's a tragic accident. The other car involved, not with Carter. LT, I appreciate the message. Look, I think the problem with the media is that there's a lot of people to quote Giannis. How do I say this without making this personal? There are a lot of people in this world who they go through their entire life and they don't understand other people from other walks of life. They only understand their own personal experience. I think there's a lot of people, especially people who work in media, all types of media, who they don't understand that other people in other cultures do and live things differently. It's like what happened with Michael Vick. People acted like Michael Vick was a monster. Michael Vick was not a monster. Michael Vick was just a guy who grew up in a certain environment, and he was not raised to have the sensibility to realize that dogfighting is not cool. It's immoral, it's violent, it's aggressive, and it's a form of abuse of an animal. And he didn't have that understanding. It only took him years later to when he said, hey, When I got out of prison and I went and met with people and I went to, I saw a therapist and I got to see, talk to people in different walks of life, that he learned to be better. And what happened is people looked at Vic like he was some monster, when it's like dog fighting, drag racing. There's things that are very commonplace in different parts of the country and the world, by the way, different foods, different types of drinks, that people are like, that's weird, ew. It's not that weird or ew. It's just that you never grew up with those things in your life. Doesn't mean that it delegitimizes its value or importance in other people's worlds. Over on the text board, 609-403-0973. George from Summers Point says, hey, Josh, I asked you yesterday what percentage could Howie trade up to get a guy like Jalen Carter. The answer is 100%. I wish I would have bet that last night. Are you surprised that the Eagles were able to get Smith at 30? I would like to hear your thoughts about that, George in Summers Point. Thank you for listening, George. Listen, I am surprised they got Nolan Smith at 30. I always thought that Smith was going to be drafted by someone, because as Andy McNamara brought up, I had been concerned about Nolan Smith because of his size. He's not a huge dude. He's just a freakish athlete. And it's hard for me to rationalize taking a top 10 pick on a guy who weighs about 100 pounds less than the guy he's going against. When you have an edge rusher and the offensive lineman is like 310 pounds and you're 230 on a good day, it's hard for me to believe that you're going to be a consistent, successful guy. But at 30, I think it's a much better value. Paul from Ocean City chimes in and says, hey, Josh, the Eagles had an awesome night to start the draft. They've had a ton of success in rounds 2 and 3 in the past. We need a good linebacker with range and a safety they can hit tonight. Also, wouldn't be surprised if we move up to get one of those positions. That's from Paul in Ocean City. The linebacker thing is very interesting, because when you look at who is going to be available to a guy like Henry 2020, he's a guy out there that I know some people like as a linebacker, the linebacker from Georgia. I know that some people like Hennig from Washington State. There's a Nate Herbig's brother, Nick Herbig, who went to Wisconsin. So, there are linebackers out there. Sidney Brown is a guy, if you want a hitter, that makes a lot of sense, from Illinois. I don't know if the Eagles are necessarily going to target him, but he's a guy that I think a team will be happy with, because he kind of reminds me of an amalgamation of Reed Blankenship and Marcus Epps in terms of his coverage, in terms of his hitting ability. That's what I see in Sidney Brown of Illinois. So he would make a lot of sense if you do get a safety. Whether the Eagles trade up or not, I don't know. Frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if they trade back. Remember, they don't have a lot of picks in the mid rounds this year. So do they trade back to maybe get a pick down there? We'll see. Steven Ventnor chimes in on the text board and says, any chance the Eagles trade up to the 30s and grab Joey Porter Jr. or Branch from Bama? I certainly think it's a chance, Steven Ventnor. I don't think that we can deny that Howie Roseman loves to move and shake and make deals. I think the problem for the Eagles is when you look at guys like Branch and Porter, you got to draft those guys with the understanding that you need to know exactly what their future entails. For example, you have Bradbury and Slay locked up on contracts for the next few years. So you know that they're going to be your starters for at least the next few years. What is the plan for Joey Porter if you draft him? Is it for him to maybe start in a couple of years, maybe trade Bradbury or Slay? Or is it to maybe play Porter some at safety? Same thing with Branch. Is Branch a safety or a nickel corner? If you believe he's a safety, the Eagles should draft him. If you think he is a slot/nickel corner, then you probably should not go after him. By the way, Jeff in Ocean City asked if the Sixers have a chance against the Celtics. Of course they have a chance. Come on. Jeff is always pointing the final text to get in and says, hey, Josh, Bird's draft was great. We will win the Super Bowl this year. Sixers win in 6. I switched from Bud Lights to Coors. Had to do the double Coors and Fireballs this evening. Happy Friday from Jeff in Summers Point. Jeff, I love the positive energy on a Friday. Have a great night, everybody.
Saturday morning in the locker room with Billy Schwein. Mike Carlin joins me in the studio. We will preview the Sixers-Celtics round 2 matchup. The sportsbook consigliere Dave Sherapan checks in from Las Vegas with his insight on betting the big games. Phillies and NFL draft talk. Plus, we'll be giving away an autographed Eagles football signed by Hassan Reddick to a lucky listener. Tune in for details and kickstart our new segment, South Jersey Faces in the Crowd. It's the locker room with Billy Schwein, Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN.
Our locally owned and operated small businesses are the heartbeat of our community, and the 97.3 ESPN South Jersey Industry Aces stand out as leaders in their fields, like Broadleys HVAC and Plumbing, a family-owned plumbing and HVAC company that has been serving Cape May and Atlantic County since 1911. And men, let Tomorrow's Wellness Center in Northfield help you rise to the occasion. For more details, visit tomorrowswellnesscenter.com. Support one of these fantastic industry aces today.
$800-533-1344. That's 800-533